everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Amelia, and here on this channel we talk about writing, journaling, and productivity to help you curate a life that you love. So we're back. It's a familiar scene, and I haven't sat here to film a video in quite a long time. Part of the reason for that is mostly just because Matt's home a lot more, and so I need to film in a separate space where it is quieter. So that's why I never film in the living room. But anyway, for today, I wanted to talk a little bit on my thoughts for having multiple journals. And part of the reason that this video is even happening is because I got a lot of responses on my 13 ways to use your notebooks when you don't know how to fill them video. And in that video, I had a lot of questions from people who were asking how to use a journal and like, is it okay to swap while you're in like the middle of journaling? Like, what's the deal with having multiple journals? So for today, I figured we could discuss a little bit more in depth on having multiple journals, what it's like, when to change, and all that good stuff. So before we get into this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up if you like it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content on journaling. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. So the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to journaling is this idea that less is more. And what I mean by that is simply that sometimes having fewer notebooks to start is better than just accumulating a ton. And I get it. I also have this problem where I see a new journal and I want to buy it even though I don't necessarily need it. I kind of go into like this little crazy buying thing. I don't know how to explain it, but I see a pretty journal and I want it. But sometimes having so many journals at once can be kind of challenging because you can't keep up with them. And it's really easy to get overwhelmed or to lose a journal or to buy it, use it twice, and then just never touch it again, which I have many journals like that. And it's just, as I've continued on with journaling and trying out different methods of journaling, I've realized that having fewer journals is often better. To give you an idea of what kinds of journals I actively use every single day, I will show you some of mine. So first up, I have my scrapbooking journal, which, yes, it has a really weird band on it. I had to tie it together. It's getting too chunky, but I have my scrapbooking journal, which is its own thing, and this is where you see a lot of my scrapbook content goes in here. Next, I have my actual journal where I write in it and I do all my journal entries. Whenever you see the Journal With Me videos, this is typically what I'm using. Sometimes I will diverge in journal entries in other journals, but that's very rare. Most of the time, it's this baby right here. And lastly, I have my bullet journal, which I have all of my bullet journal stuff in. I do all of my daily planning in this, and it's less journal focused and more productivity focused. So those are the three journals that I use pretty much every single day, or at least every other day, depending on when I pull out my scrapbook. But I don't really use all of my other journals as often. I used to have a dedicated journal for note-taking and for brainstorming, but I haven't really been using that recently. I've actually opted for more digital forms of brainstorming. I still prefer to write down a lot of brainstorming, but I found that I can save those pages and put that in my bullet journal separately. I'm still kind of working out a plan on that. I might go back to my brainstorming notebook. It kind of depends. I've just been trying out different things because 4 notebooks for me personally tends to be quite a bit. And while yes, I do have several other notebooks, as you might have seen in my 13 ways to fill an empty notebook video, I am trying to cut it back down because, like I said, it gets kind of overwhelming. So one question that I got from a few people on both Instagram and on YouTube, which if you don't follow me on Instagram, you totally should. But anyway, I've gotten a few questions from people about swapping mid-journal because a few of us, and myself included, will journal with a singular journal for quite some time and then get kind of tired of it, get bored of it. Our life changes, our personality changes, our tastes change, and so we opt for another journal. And some people feel defeated or feel like they're neglecting their current journal when they swap mid-journal. And I'm here to say that it's totally fine. If it works for you, it works for you. And yes, I'll admit, there is a sense of completion and fulfillment when you do finish a journal from page 1 to the last page, but there's also this interesting and invigorating experience of opening a new journal, and if you feel like that is what's needed, even if you're only halfway through, I mean, go for it. One example that I have of this situation is actually with my composition notebook from college. I hated this thing. It's terrible. It just doesn't lay flat, as you can see, but I didn't finish the notebook. I actually had about this much left of it. Yeah, this is quite a bit, and I didn't finish it. And I do have words on a few pages in the last ones, mostly from brainstorming, but I didn't actually finish that journal. I got very close, but I didn't finish it. And I have no regrets for not finishing. Part of the reason that I have no regrets is just because I favor my personal journal a little bit more when it comes to journaling. I just like the way it feels, I like the look of it, I like just using it, but I didn't enjoy that with my composition notebook. And I don't think that swapping mid-journal affected me in any way. If anything, I just fell in love with my new journal more, and I favor writing it than I do writing in my composition notebook. If you are trying to decide whether you should give up a notebook or get a new one, I honestly encourage you to get a new one just because I think, again, that we change as people. Our experiences, shape who we are, and if a boring cover like this one doesn't suit your personality anymore, then go for the sparkly notebook, go for the pastel notebook, go for whatever suits your needs at the time. So one thing I did want to talk about is kind of how having too many notebooks can get overwhelming, and I will refer back to that video because as I was filming it, I realized that I had quite a few notebooks and they were kind of overwhelming. When I was in college especially, I was on this weird notebook craze, and part of the reason was because I had a separate notebook for each class. I also got into bullet journaling and all these other productivity systems, and just having so many notebooks was very overwhelming. I can't tell you the amount of times I misplaced them, or I went to grab a notebook and I grabbed the wrong one, or just it seemed like my brain was very scattered. And recently I've been trying out a few different productivity tools because I still feel kind of scattered since I had two separate journals of productivity, one for brainstorming and one for my bullet journaling. And having all of my thoughts in multiple places was really messy. I had all of my creative writing in a different place, all my freelance writing in a different place, and I've been working to kind of pull it all together, and I will talk about that in a future video, but for now, I think the point that I want to make is that dumbing down the amount of notebooks I have has really changed me when it comes to organization, productivity, and just overall time-saving techniques. So the next thing I wanted to do is offer some advice to you if you are a beginner in journaling, if you've been journaling for a while but feel stuck, just overall advice when it comes to having multiple journals specifically, but also just journaling in general. My first tip is to start with one journal, just one journal. And I do mean that when it comes to bullet journaling, regular journaling, anything. Start with one. If it feels too overwhelming to have everything in one place, then I would say step it up to two, but don't make any big decisions too quick. So I would say to try to journal with one journal for at least a week and see how you like it before moving on to a second one. And then again, just kind of give yourself time to acquaint with the new journals and with the two that you have before moving on to a third or a fourth or so on and so on. The faster you try to get all these new journals and separate your life, the more overwhelming it will become. And the last thing that you want is to be overwhelmed with the amount of journals that you have, or to become confused with which journal has what in it. And this is a really big thing, especially when it comes to note-taking, because different journals for different classes, per se, have different notes in them, and getting them confused can be a problem. Another big thing that we need to consider when it comes to journaling is that there's no need to finish. You don't have to rush to the end of the notebook. You don't have to finish the notebook if you feel a change of heart halfway through. And I think that there's a big stigma in journaling that you have to stay with that one notebook until it is complete before moving on to another notebook. And I see this a lot with productivity gurus and other journaling peoples on the interwebs who encourage you to stay with your journal and journal every single day and just crank it out, And I don't want to be that person. While I do want to help you get to that stage where you can journal every single day because I believe it has profound benefits on your mental health, mental clarity, and just life overall, I don't want you to walk away with the idea that journaling every day is what you should be doing, and that if you're not journaling every day, then you are failing, if that makes sense. I'll admit that there are some days I don't journal, and I want to be transparent about it. Sometimes I have to have an accountability partner to make sure that I do my journaling, and it is what it is. When it comes to journaling, I think you should focus more on what you're putting on the page and the time that you're giving to your journal and how it's helping you personally, instead of on finishing the journal or journaling pages upon pages. While yes, it is fun to reflect on, and it does feel very invigorating to know, like, hey, I did that. Like, I did something productive with my life. It's also a toxic mentality to say that you have to achieve that, because you really don't. And I think that for anybody who's interested in journaling, the goal should always be to do something that feels right, to journal when it feels right for you, to journal in a journal that suits your needs, and to focus less on completing and finishing anything. Alright, so that is all that I have for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. It was definitely a chattier video than I've done in a while, and I was unsure on how that would go, but I think we covered some good stuff today. So, if you guys want to see more content like this, please be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you want more journaling tips, journaling hacks, or more journal with me sessions, what are you feeling for, you know? So, anyway, thank you again for watching today's video, and I will catch you next time.